Have you ever caught yourself in the middle of a conversation that never took place? Maybe you're brushing your teeth, or riding in the elevator, or just lying awake at 2 in the morning, and suddenly you're gone. Not physically, but somewhere else entirely. You're delivering the comeback you never delivered. You're winning the fight you actually lost. You're finally the version of you that you've been chasing for years. For a moment, it feels almost more real than reality itself. And then it snaps shut, and you're left with this odd aftertaste, something like satisfaction mixed with hollowness. And a question creeps in. Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep building entire scenes in my head that will never happen? If your first instinct is to assume you're bored or broken or wasting your life, I want to stop you right there, because you've got it backwards. What's happening in your skull right now is not some embarrassing glitch. It is one of the most calculated, most quietly brilliant systems your brain has ever engineered, running in the background without your permission. Today we're going to take that system apart, piece by piece, and then talk about how to walk out of the theatre and back into your actual life. Let's kill the first misunderstanding immediately. This isn't daydreaming, not in the lazy sense of the word. Daydreaming implies loose, unfocused drifting. What you're doing is closer to full production. You're not a passive spectator watching some vague mental fog roll by. You are simultaneously the screenwriter, the director, the lighting technician, and the lead role. Your brain doesn't sketch these scenes. It renders them. You hear the exact pitch of the other person's voice. You catch the flicker of surprise on their face the instant you finally land the line you never landed in real time. You build an entire tender moment with someone you've exchanged maybe 4 sentences with. So why would your brain burn actual glucose, actual metabolic energy, producing a film reel that changes nothing about the outside world? Because your brain is trying to close something the real world refused to close. Real life has one merciless feature. It only lets you go through it once. Someone humiliates you at dinner, and the perfect response arrives 3 hours later while you're rinsing a plate. Too late. But your nervous system doesn't file that under case closed. It hates unfinished business, so it does the only thing it knows how to do. It reopens the file. It drags you back to the scene, except this time you're handed the power you didn't have, the wit you didn't have, the composure you didn't have. Hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not squandering your life away in fantasy. Your brain is executing a program that evolution spent millions of years refining, building you a private laboratory where you can rehearse the messy variables of being alive and quietly restore your footing after any encounter that left you feeling small. To understand why these scenes fire up on their own, uninvited, even when you're actively trying to focus on something else, we have to talk about the default mode network, or DMN. Think of it as the app running silently in the background of your mind. The instant you're locked onto a task, solving an equation, drafting an email, watching for traffic, the DMN dims itself. So your attention has room to work. But the second you release that grip, close the laptop, zone out on the train, stand under hot water in the shower, the DMN switches back on almost instantly. In people who are unusually imaginative, sensitive, or perfectionistic, this network practically never powers down. It's restless. It's hungry for material. It reaches for fragments of memory, mixes them with desires you haven't fully admitted to yourself, and stitches the whole thing into what psychologists call counterfactual thinking. None of this exists to torture you or to yank you out of your actual life. It exists to teach you something, to test alternate branches of a situation, to pull a lesson forward, or to gently dress a wound that nobody ever tended to in reality. It's an extraordinarily sophisticated self-repair mechanism. But here's a nuance most people miss. Not everyone who runs these mental scripts is suffering or lacking something. Plenty of people do this purely to try on different versions of themselves, imagining who they'd be if they spoke more honestly, stood taller, lived without apology. For them, this isn't escape. It's rehearsal for expansion. The trouble only starts the moment you forget it's a simulation and quietly move your address there instead. And if you watch these scenes closely, you'll notice something strange about their purpose. Your brain, at its core, is a prediction engine. Its entire job is answering one relentless question: what happens next? And what do I need to do to survive it or win it? So when you replay an argument with a family member before it happens, or rehearse asking your boss for a raise, or picture yourself glowing on a first date, you're not wasting time. You're building a rehearsed neural pathway so the real version doesn't catch you off guard. But this is exactly where things get dangerous, because in the human mind, the line between rehearsal and replacement is razor thin. Run a conversation through your head enough times, and you've technically already said everything you meant to say. You've already heard the perfect responses land. So by the time the real opportunity shows up, some of the motivation has already evaporated, because part of you feels like it's already happened. You picture such a vivid, accomplished version of yourself that sitting down to actually write the first paragraph or the first line of code feels almost pointless by comparison. The imagined future, the very thing that was supposed to pull you forward, quietly becomes a glass box that keeps you exactly where you are. To understand why it's so hard to let this go, we need to talk about one of the most stubborn human cravings there is: control. Out there, the world is chaotic. You can't dictate what other people think of you. You can't force someone to be more careful with you. You can't make the world notice your talent on your timeline. You can't rewind a sentence you regret. Reality is soaked in uncertainty, bruised egos, and rejection that lands without warning. But inside your own head, everything shifts. In the private kingdom of your imagination, you hold the pen. You choose the lighting, the camera angle, the ending. You always land the line. The person who wounded you finally crumbles with regret. You are finally, completely understood. You win. And your nervous system will chase that feeling of safety and victory harder than almost anything else, especially if you've spent long stretches feeling small, powerless, or unseen. These imagined scenes become the softest surface available to land on. There's nothing shameful in that. It's simply the human hunger for worth. There's a strange comfort in all of this too. One worth naming honestly. The version of you that wins the argument, that lands the perfect line, that gets chosen, isn't a stranger. It's not some fictional character you invented from nothing. It's a real possibility your own mind believes you're capable of. Otherwise, it couldn't render the scene so convincingly. In a way, these fantasies are evidence, proof that some part of you already knows what you're made of, even if the rest of you hasn't caught up yet in practice. Here's the price tag though. Pour enough time and emotion into this internal world, and something genuinely risky starts to happen. The border between what's real and what's imagined begins to dissolve. Your brain is not particularly skilled at distinguishing emotion generated by lived experience from emotion generated by imagination. So you wake up furious at your partner because their imagined version wronged you in a scene you built last night, while the actual person across the breakfast table did nothing at all. You end up sentencing someone for a crime committed only by a ghost in your head. Or the reverse happens. You sculpt someone into a flawless figure inside your mind, and the moment the real version acts even slightly distant, your whole world caves in because reality refused to follow the script you worked so hard to perfect. So the obvious question surfaces. If this keeps happening automatically, how do you actually get out? First, drop the instinct to suppress it. The harder you tell yourself not to think about something, the tighter your brain grips it. Don't fight the current, work with it instead. Understand what these scenes are trying to hand you, then take the wheel yourself. Here's a 4-part way back to the present. First, get the scene out of your skull and onto paper. The moment you catch yourself deep inside a triumphant story or a flawlessly scripted argument, stop and write it down. Don't let it keep spinning unnamed in the dark. Your brain builds these scenes because some desire or emotion inside you hasn't been given words yet, so hand it words. This is what psychologists call expressive writing, and it works because it closes the loop your mind is stuck circling. Once the scene exists on paper, your brain gets the signal that the information has been safely stored, and the need to keep replaying it starts to loosen. Second, ask yourself directly, is this preparing me or protecting me? Rehearsal is when you're gearing up for an action you're actually about to take, imagining how you'll decline an unreasonable request today, then going and declining it tomorrow. That's a launch pad. Protection is different. It's using the fantasy as a hiding place, winning the argument only in your head while staying silent in the room, confessing your feelings only in a script that never gets sent as a message. Be honest about which one you're doing. If it's rehearsal, carry that confidence straight into action. If it's protection, admit it plainly. I'm hiding right now, and I'm soothing myself with something that isn't real. Naming it is already half the exit. Third, put a clock on it. You don't need to become some austere monk who bans imagination entirely. It's a genuine gift. Use it. Just set a boundary. The theatre closes on schedule. When a scene shows up, don't block it. Let it run for exactly 10 minutes. Inside that window, direct whatever you want. Say the harsh thing, say the tender thing, go all in. But when the timer ends, the show ends with it. Lights out, house empty. And you get up and return to your actual work. This trains your mind that these scenes are a stress valve, a form of mental entertainment, not a residence. You're allowed to visit. You are not allowed to move in. Fourth, the instant you notice you've drifted too far, return through your body. Some days the DMN pulls harder than others, and you surface 30 minutes later, pulse elevated, chest tight, reacting to something that never occurred. The way back isn't more thinking. Thinking is what got you there. The mind has no weight and can travel anywhere in time, but your body has weight, and it's anchored permanently to right now. Feel your feet pressing into the floor. Notice the actual temperature of the air on your skin. Watch your own breath rise and fall. Pick a single object in the room, a mug, a plant, a window frame, and describe its exact shape and color out loud in your head. Touch something with texture. Take a sip of cold water and track it all the way down your throat. These small physical anchors send an unmistakable signal to your nervous system. There is no argument happening. There is no drama unfolding. There is only this room, this body, this moment. Here's the image worth keeping. Your mind is a river, and these scenes are simply the current running through it. Sometimes it's calm, when the fantasy is pleasant. Sometimes it rages, when you're replaying pain. You will never dam it completely, so stop wasting your strength trying. What you can choose is whether to jump in and get carried away, or step onto the bank, sit in the grass of your own awareness, watch the water move, acknowledge that it's there, and then stand, turn around, and walk back toward your actual life. The scenes appearing is never the problem. The problem starts the instant you mistake them for the destination. We've reached the end here, and I know some of you have spent countless hours living inside these imagined rooms. I won't pretend some of them weren't beautiful, because they were. They glowed. They felt like safety. Maybe on your hardest nights, that private cinema was the only warmth available when the real world had nothing to offer you. Your imagination may genuinely have been the softest thing you owned, but you don't have to keep living there. It's time to hand these scenes back to what they actually are. Drafts, rehearsal spaces, nothing more. They were never meant to replace the real thing. And your real life is standing just outside that door, unscripted and uncertain, full of people who are complicated and stakes that make your pulse jump. But it's also the only place with the actual weight of skin against skin. Real tears, hard-won victories nobody handed you. That's the only thing capable of actually filling you up. And maybe that imperfect, unscripted realness is already enough. One more thing worth saying before we close this out. None of this makes you unusual, and it definitely doesn't make you weak. Almost everyone carries some version of this private cinema. Some room in their head where the lighting is better and the lines always land. The difference between people who use it well and people who get stuck in it usually isn't talent or discipline. It's simply whether they remember to check the exits. So the next time you catch yourself mid-scene, mid-argument you already won, don't panic and don't shame yourself for it. Just gently ask which of the 4 steps you need right now. Maybe you need to write it down and let it go. Maybe you need to ask whether it's rehearsal or hiding. Maybe you just need to feel the floor under your feet again. None of this requires you to become a different person overnight. It only asks that you keep noticing. So tell me, what's the scene you replay most often? The one that shows up uninvited in the shower or right before you fall asleep? Drop it below, because you might discover you're far less alone in this than you thought, and someone reading your comment might feel a little less strange about their own private theatre tonight. I'm Charlotte. Feel seen? You're already one of us. Subscribe? Think too much? You're home.